gratitude, everyone. My name is Alana, and I am the creator and founder and formulator of Sabale Pure. And we make these amazing products that you see. I am just getting into using a microphone and these headphones, and they keep falling out of my ear, and they're a little bit annoying. But I've been told that it's really important that I show up and I sound great. And so I'm trying to do just that. And so I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. Not so much a hiatus of life, because life has continued on and I've been doing other things as a mother of 4 boys, 3 of whom are at home, and the wife of an astrologer who is a fellow entrepreneur. And I have been showing up for him in his business and taking care of my children and doing all of this things. So I have by no means been sitting back idly, but I have taken a little breather for a moment, and I am back now. And I'm back with this brand new series, which I really hope you're going to enjoy. And it's called Back to Basics. And so for me, as I had to step away for a moment, I started to think about what was the basics of what made me start this line. What was my goal with this line? And one of the things that I've always said is that this line is as much, if not more so, about the power that our body care products have to change our lives. And you think, oh my gosh, that is so dramatic. What does she mean body care can change your life? Like, what? But the reality is, the same way that we know that the ingredients that we put on our body, the foods that we eat, can impact our health in negative ways, the ingredients that we put on our body can also impact our health in positive ways. And that is the foundation for this line. Before the name Sabale Pure was here, I had the dream of creating healthy products. Before the coloring, before even the lineup, even knowing specifically what products I was going to start this line with, my goal was to change people's understandings about the products that they choose to put on their bodies and how those products can positively or negatively impact them. And so in this series, Getting Back to Basics, I'm looking at the basics behind what made me create this line, and that is ingredient selection and its impact on our health. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how that came to be and the whole 9. And the full series is going to have 5 parts. I think at this point, first part is going to be this intro where I tell you a little bit about me, a little bit about the things that I'm doing. Can y'all hear my kids out there? Have I mentioned that I am the mother of 4 boys, 3 of which are at home? And so my house is constantly moving. So even when you don't see me here, trust me, I've got a lot going on. So this is the intro video. Then I'm going to have videos that are going to look very specifically at the intentional formulations of my smooth lip hydrators, my fresh tooth powder, my earth trace mineral deodorant, and my hydrating organic body, or hydrate our organic body oil. Okay, and I am going to open up and tell you everything about all of the ingredients. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to invite you to please, please, please ask questions. Ask questions about it. And as you're listening and being curious, I want you to also ask yourself this question. How often have you ever been given the opportunity to ask the formulators behind your Unilever, your Johnson & Johnson, your Revlon, your, the people who bought Burt's Bees, which is Procter and Gamble. When was the last time that their formulators came and said, we'll sit down and we'll answer all your questions about why we do what we do? Well, I'm going to give you the short answer as to why they do what they do. Money, baby. Money, 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 money. That's why they do what they do. And it's first and foremost. It is not about your health. It is not about your well-being. It is about their pockets and the bottom line from everything that they do. And I, on the other hand, have always been about building up well-being. So that's why I'm welcoming your questions. I want you to feel comfortable and confident, and I want to empower you. So part of empowering you is telling you a little bit about how I came to this place. And that's where we're going to start this conversation about going back to basics. So I can't talk about going back to basics without talking about me as a little girl. Growing up, I was born on Long Island in New York. And I had a mom who was very much into alternative medicine. Interestingly enough, she was also a nurse. And so she worked in a hospital and dealt with that every day. And she would come home, and that impacted the way that she raised me. I never went to the doctor, ever. Well, I mean, occasionally, but we're talking so occasional that I had no regular doctor. And that was definitely not something that I did. What I did do is I had a mom who began giving me supplements at a very young age. I was swallowing pills somewhere about 4 or 5 years old. I used homeopathic medicines and different herbs and different things. I can remember my mom making yogurt on the counter of our apartment, growing microgreens, different things of that nature. That was the type of household that I grew up in. True story. So it's about 1978, 79-ish, and I am at school, and all the little kids come into school with their lunch boxes, and their mothers have made these wonderful sandwiches, and then all the kids take their sandwiches out, and they start comparing them and talking about it, and then they cut their sandwiches in half or maybe even in quarters, and they sit down and they would share their sandwiches, and that would build up community and build up conversation, and it was really, really cool. And growing up biracial and looking the way that I did, I was in white communities, but I looked like this, so I was always a little bit on the outside. And this was in the 70s, so it wasn't quite as, like, there weren't a lot of people like me where I was. And so I went home and I told my mom that she had to make me lunch because this was going to allow me to make friends and become popular, because people would want to share their lunch with me, and then I would be able to have friends and talk to them about food and everything else. So my mom was a little bit like, I don't know, I'm not really that mom who does these things, but she did make me a sandwich upon request, along with, I can't remember what else she put with it. And so I got to school the next day and I opened up my lunch sack, and I had a little sack. A lot of kids had the little metal boxes and so forth. Mine was a little lunch sack, and I opened it up and I unwrapped, and I had the wax paper wrapping up my sandwich, and I looked at it and I immediately became very unhappy with what I saw, because I knew that it was not going to go over well. So my sandwich was on organic sprouted bread. It was chunky with the little seeds and different things, and there was a layer of cottage cheese. And yes, it was cottage cheese made from raw milk, and it was sprinkled with microgreens and topped with honey, and she might have put some banana in there as well. So I just had this whole menage, and I'm looking at it, and you could see other kids kind of looking like, what is that? Like, oh my goodness. I definitely was not making any new friends that day with that sandwich. But I share that with you so that you can understand this is how I was raised. And so when I came flash forward all these years, and yes, like so many people, you know, you get raised up a particular way and then you get into the world and you start living your life. And as I mentioned, I never really went to the doctor. And then I finally had a job where I had health insurance and I could go to the doctor. And, you know, because I never went to the doctor, I never had antibiotics. So I had antibiotics once when I was a kid because I had an ear infection. That was the one time. But then I hadn't really had antibiotics until I was evolved and had my first full-time job where they took their taxes and so forth out of my money, and I got health insurance and I was able to go to the doctor, and the second I had like a little cough or whatever, they could put me on the antibiotics and I could miraculously feel better in a few days. And it was really, like, I thought very, very cool. And I didn't really realize that really went against a lot of the things. And later on, as I grew older, I was so thankful that I was not raised to be on antibiotics every time I turned around and all these different things. But at the time, it was a little bit challenging to be different, not just in the way that I looked, but in the things that I ate, in the way that I went about life and whatnot. It was kind of challenging. But that is the basis for how I decided to start formulating Sabale Pure, and thinking about these ingredients and how they could better our lives and increase our well-being. I was raised up on homeopathic medicines. Essential oils did not really come into I don't remember them really being a part of my life until I got a little bit older. My mother did get into selling doTERRA, so we started doing a lot of essential oils at that time. But even prior to doTERRA, I know she began dabbling in oils and different things. The reason why I share this is that using herbs and doing these sorts of things really is second nature, and my going back to the basics. So when I first got into formulating organic body care, it really was not my intention to become an actual formulator. That would seem like something that was really crazy hard. And from all that I knew, I needed to get formally trained, and I wasn't a scientist or a chemist or any of these things. And so it seemed like it was really, really crazy hard to do. And I was very, very steeped in the training that I had received in corporate America and just corporate thinking. In many ways, our society is really built on that concept of, like, I call it like gap thinking, or where everybody gets the same t-shirt and it's just slightly different colors, but it's all pretty much the same t-shirt, the same jeans, the same products, the same this. Maybe you used Secret, maybe you used, Mitchum or whatever it was, but you followed the same thing and you went into the same grocery stores or big box stores and you picked up your products and you did that. And if you were not part of that machine, then you didn't think that you would be empowered enough to create on your own. And let me tell you, that is not true. That is what they want you to believe so that you continue to consume and do and be what they want you to be. So when I first started, I was really caught up in that thought process. So the first thing that I did is I said, I want to create a line. And so because I want to do that and I don't have this experience, I am going to need to use a private label person. So I went and I did the private label thing, and I began looking for organic private label manufacturers. And what I found after interviewing one after the other, that their idea of organic and my idea of organic were two very different things. And so I said to myself, well, if I'm going to go through all the effort to create a brand, then I really need it to be about the things that I have come to know and understand through my years of, as I said, I grew up very connected to natural remedies and healing, and then I went away from it and I was coming back to it by the time I started my very first body care line. And so then when that didn't work out, I said, well, if they don't do this, then what I need to do is look into hiring a professional who can put this together. Because again, I was very steeped in that belief.
You can't do that!
That I wasn't raised up in this world, so I needed to ensure that I had a professional who could help me create the way that I wanted to. So I hired that professional. He was a very accomplished man. He worked for Estee Lauder and Clinique and Chanel. He knew his way in and out and around a body care formula. And so I gave him our formula for body oil or body lotion, a whipped body butter that we had. And I said, hey, can you make this ready to put on the shelves? And so he immediately got to working. And when I was so excited, it took about a week and we got the formula back. And I was like, wait a minute. He had put in the preservatives that I didn't want. He had put in the fillers that I didn't want. He had put in all these things, and his reason for this was for the shelf stability and for the, the safety and for all of these reasons that, to be very, very honest with you, were not true reasons. They were the corporate reasons that we have been trained of why things are the way that they are, but they were not necessary. So I ended up letting him go, and I began looking, and I remember finding on the shelf a product that was different than ours, but similar in that it had a lot of natural ingredients, and they didn't have preservatives. Yet they were on the shelf of a national health food chain. And so I knew at that point in time that it had to be possible. And so what I decided after that was to begin researching and to begin figuring out how could we really use natural ingredients. And so that's how this whole thing started. And then once I began with the natural ingredients, I said to myself, well, okay, there's a lot of companies out there that are making natural products, removing the toxins. And what I didn't want to be was just another company that just removed the most toxic things, the things that were making us sick, but I wanted to be a company that presented itself differently, that showed up with something that set us apart from the competition. And what I realized is I started thinking one day, I was like, we got into this because we were learning about the illnesses that were associated with deodorants specifically. The aluminum was creating cancer. The autoimmune industry was blowing up, and more people were being diagnosed, and they were linking so much of this to the toxins in our everyday products and the air we breathe, the food we eat, etc., etc., etc. And so I began to think about it, and I said to myself, if the inclusion of these types of ingredients can deteriorate our health, what would happen if we decided to include ingredients with specific health benefits? Remember, I grew up in a household where I grew up on homeopathic medicines, and I grew up on, being with the concepts of eating healthier and eating greens and all these things. And I knew that healthy food could do that for my body. And I also had learned that my skin absorbed everything it came into contact with in 26 seconds. And so therefore, what I was putting on my skin could make me sick. So I said, I want to create a line that does the exact opposite. I want to create a line that what you are now putting on your skin actually increases well-being, increases health. So what is increased health? Increased health, as I began to look at it, was allowing for our body to be in constant motion and flow. What you will find as you start to look into health is that a body that is not stagnant but is in constant movement is the healthiest body. So when we are detoxing, when we are going to the bathroom, when we are properly sweating, when we are keeping things moving within our body, we are healthier. Think about it. What happens when our heart gets blocked up? We get heart disease. What happens when our vessels begin to close up? We get high blood pressure. What happens? I mean, we could go on and on. When toxins are held in our body, we get sick. We get cancer. What happens when food breaks down and begins to decay in our gut? We get sick. We get a whole host of different things, and we have obviously learned so much about our gut and its importance. So with those same concepts, I decided to look at how could I create ingredient products that actually possess ingredients that support this constant flow, this constant detoxification. I learned about anti-toxification, which is an Ayurvedic term, and it is when you are constantly doing things to keep your body in balance, because that is what Ayurvedic medicine is all about. I am not an Ayurvedic medicine practitioner. I know a little bit about it. I am by no means trying to put myself into that place. I highly recommend for anybody interested, do pick up, learn about it, watch some videos, pick up some books. It's a very amazing concept to bring into your health, and I do believe that it is something that can increase people's health. Let me also take this time as I'm saying this. I am not a doctor. I am just a person who has lived a life, and I have found that as I live this life, if I am doing things that encourage flow, that I am healthier and happier. So definitely you want to maintain that health. And so that's how this brand was born. It was born in removing the toxins, but then increasing the health with the ingredients. So now that I have explained a little bit about what this series is going to talk about, let me just give a recap. So we're going to have our introductory video, and then I'm going to go into videos to describe what is in each of the 4 products that Sabali Pure now makes. And I'm going to break it down, and I'm going to talk to you about the benefits of these ingredients. My goal is to give you education, to explain to you, and so that you can completely make informed decisions, and to let you understand the importance of every single intentional decision that has been made in the creation of this line. I encourage the conversation. I want to make sure we keep the dialogue going, and I hope that you will enjoy this series and enjoy learning a little bit more about what we do, and maybe it will inspire you to change a little something in your life or keep going in something that you're doing. Maybe you too will decide to get into a line of business that you never saw yourself doing, because I'll tell you, I never did see myself becoming an organic formulator, but I am so proud of the fact that I have learned how to do this. It has given me such an amazing creative outlet to build up and develop my skills in this way. So I'm hoping that you get something out of this, and that you learn something, and that hopefully maybe you'll become a client of Sabali Pure. And that's it. So in the next video, I will be discussing our Earth Trace Mineral Holistic Deodorant. Yeah, that's a big, something just fell in my room. That's a mouthful, but it's an amazing product that will definitely change your life. All right. Thank you. Bye.